Hey guys, Luton here. Star Marine is the upcoming FPS module for Star Citizen. It was originally set for a test release a few months ago, but since then has become an ongoing project with no scheduled live date. That was until today, when they've announced that we're shooting to have FPS on the PTU roundabout Gamescom or slightly after Gamescom. We're really talking about people getting to play FPS in a matter of 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks. This is obviously a blow to Star Citizen's detractors, who often seem to be making the claim that this game will never become a real entity. We also had a new update this week on its progress, and you can read these in detail in the links below. Myself though, I'm very happy about the release delays, but obviously also highly anticipating something physical to get to grips with. Consider though that CIG are not like other developers, tied into specific release dates. They have a rough guideline that is fluid and adaptable to ensure that they make the game to the level they know that it wants to be. The FPS module, or Star Marine, is probably the element of the game that I am most worried about. It gave me the worrisome feeling of Eve's project Dust 514. I know some people love that, but for me it was not a keeper. A concern with introducing an FPS element is, will it create two communities that don't really enjoy interacting with each other? The FPS players and the spaceship pilots. I think that's got to be remain to be seen, but to hear Chris Roberts explain it, I feel that Star Citizen has a better chance of avoiding this community division. Chris explains Star Marine as this. He says that since the days of Wing Commander, I've dreamed of integrating a first-person shooter with a space sim. It's such an exciting idea. You might land your fighter on a carrier and then race into battle to repel alien boarders, or you might put down a seedy border world and fight off pirates eager to steal your cargo. On a broader level, it speaks to our long-term goal of increasing immersion. You're no longer taken out of the action with between mission game flow menus, or worse, instead from the moment you start the game to the minute you exit, you're living and interacting with the Star Citizen world. The FPS module will not just contain shooty elements though, they also want to add in a sport mode called SATA 0G Sport, which allows you to use a pistol to stun opponents in order to make plays. But make no mistake, it's not a shooter mode. Without having seen this, the image that I conjure in my mind is something like Blitzball from Final Fantasy X combined with Halo. It's likely that along with the current flight models in Arena Commander, Star Marine will enable you to play out standalone FPS games within that, if you're a backer of Star Citizen, that is. My concerns for Star Marine though are numerous, but given we've seen so little of it, coupled with having nothing to compare this project against, I'll happily reserve judgment and instead trust that they're bringing something strong to the table and not a glitchy, clunky FPS add-on, which would be very demoralising. The scope though of what CIG are trying to do here with creating an entire universe and all the complexity of interaction therein, plus visceral space combat attached onto that, first person boarding capability or storming mission assignments to capture cargo or persons, seems a daunting or even insane task. Yet they are doing it. Star Citizen continues to be an enigma. To see the scale of what they're trying to achieve seems to some impossible. To build worlds, ships, players, combat, trade, industry, diplomacy, a functioning, living universe where you can be one moment flying through the galaxy, the next breaching a player's ship to kill their crew, steal their cargo before you secure it, sell it to the highest bidder. Having all this on the scale they envisage feels to many like a dream that's never going to happen, and that those supporting the game have been somehow conned into a project so large it would never come to fruition. Yet, with that in mind, I would say this. Now, I'm over 30 years old at this time. I started playing games with a system that had a 7.6 MHz processor and only 72 kilobytes of RAM. Games did not even have a save functionality, or for the most part the ability to move in 3 dimensions when I started playing. Things move forward. And in many ways I find it hilarious when so many people seem only interested in how pretty something looks. For me, the most exciting changes have been in the game mechanics, the boundaries of how much you can literally do in a game. Star Citizen asks the question, can we do it? If no one is willing to even try and push the boundaries of what we're able to do in games, then how can we possibly move forward? I remember over 10 years ago discussing with friends how amazing it would be to create a realistic simulation of the Alien movie, yet at the time we couldn't imagine how this would be possible given the limitations of gaming. Yet it's been done, and done to a level of amazing commitment to the genre and narrative. This week the Star Citizen team gave an update on where Star Marine stands, and it at least sounds like things are moving along well. Updates to the netcode, player animations, level design improvements, and investigating weapon balances. Talking about the overall feel of this, they said that we want it to be a simulation of the rest of the Persistent Universe's first-person gameplay rather than a throwaway action mode that doesn't speak to the larger project. We want gameplay where there are consequences for death so that the player is encouraged to be slow, careful, and there's a reason to help your friends and do your best to overpower, deceive, and defeat your enemies. Also talking about weapons, they explained that sometimes we make a gun too good. The ATT-4 seen last week is a very satisfying gun to use, to the point that we now need to enhance the other weapons to its level, rather than turning it down, which might happen on an ordinary project. This is a particularly interesting perspective to have, to bring guns up to a standard to ensure they have a purpose and are fun to use, rather than just smudging a current weapons balance to hope that it becomes acceptable, stacked against the guns that nobody wants to use. I think we can all put that into perspective of our own experience with other FPS, and when you think about it you think, that actually makes a hell of a lot of sense. The thing that gives me the most hope for this aspect of Star Citizen though, is that unlike other developers and producers, the team at CIG create actual, meaningful alpha-beta periods. Right now they are bringing the FPS module up to a standard they deem strong enough for the community. It will then enter a long period of community testing, daily forum feedback, and continual patching and updating. This game is a long way from being what you would consider to be a finished project, if it ever is a finished project. Games like this are not something that are ever simply signed off on. They grow and evolve and develop over time. I'd be lying if I told you that I don't have concerns about throwing an FPS into the mix of Star Citizen's already ambitious project. But on the other hand, their pragmatic approach coupled with a vision of almost crazy proportions, it just feels like, why not? If they can pull this off, it's going to be a simply massive game, one that will become part of our regular roster of gaming for years to come. Tell me your thoughts below about Star Marine, Star Citizen, and what you are looking forward to in this game. Thanks for watching guys, I'll see you next time.